This is Geek Revolution Radio,
a show for geeks by geeks.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Geek Revolution Radio. I am your host, Ryan Bennett, and with me, as always, is Mr. Will Hatton. How you doing this week, Will?
Dude, I'm well. I'm excited to be here as usual. I feel like I've been going back and listening to each episode, and the very first thing I say in each episode is I'm excited to be here, which
I've noticed true, that.
But I feel like I need to branch out. it's awesome. Things are great.
He's always excited to be here. Awesome. Every week he's excited. That's great. Yeah, I've noticed that too. It's actually really funny. I love that you say that every week. Actually, it's kind of, I bring it in the same way, you bring it in the same way. It's congruity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. I'm excited about this topic too, because I think we've made it pretty evident, pretty clear to everybody that we're huge Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
And I don't fall into the camp of one or the other. I think I like Star Trek or Star Wars more, but I am a Star Trek fan, even the old stuff. So this will be really interesting for me.
I definitely like Star Trek, but I'm all about the Star Wars. I mean, there's no two round ways about it. I mean, I'm all about it. There's no doubt. But based on, we're going to get into this later in the show, but we have a common ancestor now through J.J. Abrams, which is nice.
He will forever link the two franchises.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, I've gone back and listened to some of our old reviews of Star Trek, our reviews of, not necessarily reviews, but when we found out that J.J. Abrams was hosting or was directing episode 7, or when we found out that Disney bought Lucasfilm. I've listened to some of those episodes, and man, those were some of the prime days of this show, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were fired up. There's no doubt about it. I want to give a shout out before we start to our friends over at ADO Radio. I had a chance to kind of catch up on some of their old episodes, and man, those guys are still doing it out there in Los Angeles. So God bless ADO Radio. You can find them on the interwebs if you want to listen to their show. I actually, this last week, maybe we'll talk about this later, but I listened to the Stupid Wankers, who are kind of some old friends from the Bobo Broadcasting Network. And they're still doing their shows, and it's funny. I hadn't listened to them for a couple of months, and then I went back, and their last couple of shows were all Star Wars based, and I was like, well, I can get on board with that for sure. And they did kind of a synopsis of Star Wars Episode 7, and they went through this stupid Huffington Post article that some idiot wrote, where they were pointing out all the plot holes in Episode 7. But this was clearly somebody that didn't pay that close of attention to the movie or had only seen it once. I'm not really sure what the deal was, but the cool thing was the Stupid Wankers went through and basically tore apart his 28 different points on this is where Star Wars has problems, and they defeated every one of them as far as I could tell. And that was really actually pretty fun to listen to.
It's interesting when people write articles like that. It's straight up clickbait. It's like people want to be recognized for something, even if it's not entirely factual.
Yeah. And this guy, this is HuffPost. They let anyone write for that place. And this guy clearly had, he had a vendetta going before. I don't know what he was thinking, but it actually turned out to be a really good show. You can listen to their show over at stupidwankers.com. But they're fun stuff. And then did you get a chance? I don't know. Did you listen to the other Mike and Mike show this week, Will?
I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it.
Oh my gosh. I think it might be the funniest episode of their show that they have ever done. So they're talking about the differences between their jobs, Mike T and Mike W. Mike W has apparently just a regular job where you get a regular amount of vacation days, for a career type job. And then Mike T's oh yeah, my job, we get 5 days of vacation all year. That's it. I'm like, what the, me and Mike are both as a listener, I'm like, what is going on here? And Mike W is like, what? That's ridiculous. That's not vacation, and so they start talking about, places they're going to go and things they're going to do. And Mike T, God bless his heart, he goes, oh yeah, we're going to go out to Vegas. And my wife gave me a hall pass. And Mike W goes, a hall pass, like you thought, like my ears perked up. I was like, damn, this guy's wife giving him a hall pass. That's amazing. And Mike W starts pressing him on the issue. Like, what do you mean a hall pass? She's going to let you bang some strippers out? And he's like, no. She's going to let me go. That's what a hall pass is, right?
No.
It was like, so then there was like, 10 minutes of banter between these guys. And like Mike T was almost like arguing with Mike W about what exactly a hall pass was. And, like I'm sitting there as a listener screaming into my like speakers on my truck being like, listen to Mike W. Mike T, I know you listen to our show. A hall pass is where your wife gives you permission to go somewhere and bang some random.
There's a movie about it. It's like literally called Hall Pass.
Yeah. Mike W brought that up and he's like, have you ever seen it? He's like, no. And I'm like, what do you think? Of course he hasn't seen it. Like,
it's totally like it says, like on the poster, it says 1 week, no rules.
Yeah. Right. So that episode, I think, turned out to be, on top of Mike W finally convincing Mike T to say something racist. It finally happened this week. Might be the best episode of their show ever, because I was sitting in my cube. I listened to it on the way to work, and then I was listening to the rest of it in my cube at work. And I was like sitting at my desk laughing maniacally like an idiot. My coworkers probably thought, like, what's going on with this guy? Why is he laughing at his desk?
Yeah, I've listened to an improv podcast called Improv for Humans, and I laugh hysterically when I listen to that. And I would be like on the bus or walking around campus just thinking, I can't listen to the show while I'm in public because I'll just start laughing. You just look weird.
Yeah, it's great. Listen to their show. The Other Mike and Mike show is at theothermikes.com. We're looking at putting together a podcasting network, so more on that to come. But then Mike W also does another show for all you MMA fans out there called Knights of the Octagon. You can get that at kotomma.com, so check that out. This week, if you guys can't tell, we are going to have a Star Trek versus Star Wars, or Star Wars versus Star Trek, depending on where you come down on it, episode. And maybe not so much, I don't know, I was thinking about it today, maybe it's not so much as like a versus, as far as, like one's better than the other. But I definitely think there's a lot of discussion points here, especially in a post J.J. Abrams world.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are in one camp or the other. Like they're very adamant about their way they feel about Star Trek or Star Wars. But I think I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I like them both. I probably like Star Wars more, but I'm really excited about the discussion. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun talking about it. I think you're right. A lot of people, some people feel that it is a versus thing, that they're really opposed, but for you and for me, it's probably not that way.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is sometimes.
Well, we're definitely seeing, we're going to get into this later, but we're definitely seeing some crossover. And speaking of crossover, you kind of, you had a hypothetical this week that you put up on our Facebook page, where you talked about, kind of living the same day over and over. Why don't you lay it out for us, and then we'll discuss.
So last week was Groundhog's Day. Fortunately, Puxatonic Phil, or however you say his name.
What is this? Yeah, what is it? I don't even know.
Tuxahani, whatever. I don't know. Phil saw his shadow, or he didn't see his shadow, so we're gonna have spring soon, right? I think that's what it is. Like, it's such a weird tradition that it's kind of stupid.
You said it. Why are we predicting our seasons on whether a gopher is afraid of a man in a hat or not?
Yeah, I completely don't understand it, but I love the movie. I mean, when I think of Groundhog's Day, I don't care what happens up in Philadelphia, I assume, New York.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere up there. Maybe the Mike, the other Mike and Mike show can fill us in on exactly.
And they're like yelling at us right now. It's blah blah blah.
What is all this nonsense about?
So, I love the movie. If anybody, it hurts me to say, if anybody doesn't know the movie, that right away you should watch it, just because it's one of Bill Murray's finest films. But he basically lives the same day over and over again. It's just a comedy. He basically can go and do the same thing over and over and over again each day, and so it's just fun. It's like he learns how to play the piano, how to ice sculpture with a chainsaw. He does all these like crazy things throughout the movie, and I was like thinking about it. That would be a really interesting hypothetical. So there's like 3 parts to the hypotheticals. What would you do with your time, just in general? What skills would you perfect? And in the movie, he wakes up to the same Sonny and Cher song. And I think it'd be interesting if you got to choose what song you had to wake up to every morning. What song would it be? So, there's your question, Ryan. What would you do with your time?
Jeez. So I thought about it, and like, I guess I'm not really does he wait? I haven't seen the movie. I'm going to just lay that out right now. Okay. I'm going to watch it because I love Bill Murray. I love Ghostbusters Bill Murray. And I actually liked his little Christmas comedy special he did. It was really good. So when he wakes up, is he just in his bed at home, or is it a specific day in his life that he's waking up to?
So it is Groundhog's Day. He's like a weatherman or a news reporter that's sent to cover the groundhog, checking out his shadow. And there, like, it doesn't really dive into like why he keeps repeating the same day over again, but he wakes up, does the day, goes back to sleep. It's all the same. And each day it starts out the same. The day is exactly the same. So it's not like a new day. He keeps repeating the same day over. So
okay, so I get to pick like a specific day that is either has happened to me, essentially.
It would be like this tonight when you go to bed, you're gonna wake up today, not tomorrow. Okay. Today. You're gonna relive today.
I think I got you. So I would pick to wake up on the day that was the day I was on my honeymoon. I was on a cruise ship.
No. So you don't get to choose the day. Like, it's today. Like you're
so
gonna.
It's absolutely today. I'm just gonna wake up and it's gonna be Thursday again.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So if I had a chance to relive every day, kind of, and do work on one thing, it's a good thing that it's a Thursday, because I would like to do this show every day. That's one thing. That's one thing I would like to do. Like I always talked about, if I ever won the lottery or something and I didn't have to work anymore, I would just start doing this show probably Monday through Thursday. I'd do it 4 times a week, and I'd like hire staff. I'd like move Will out here, and I'd get like a producer and someone else to edit all this crap up. And, I would do that because I really like ending the show with a nightcap. And ironically, also on Thursdays, after work, me and a bunch of like the people I work with, we all get together at a bar right after work for a couple of drinks before we head home. So I definitely want to do that too. But assuming that I don't have to work, because if I was repeating every day, I wouldn't bother with working. I'd probably...
That's the thing. Like, in the movie, he basically like he stops doing what he did. Like in the beginning of the movie, he does the same things over and over again that he did. Like, he goes to the groundhog or whatever it is.
If my bank account is going to reflect the exact same number as it does this morning, then why would I go to work? You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be like, if I work today and then tomorrow it'll be, and the next repeating the day it'll be bigger. So why bother with that? So I'd probably get better at the guitar. I'd sleep in. I'd probably like mountain bike in the morning, because I don't really like working out, but I feel like if I biked around, that's something I could handle with. And I'd spend a lot of time with my daughter. Actually, it'd be really convenient because my daughter is she's like 15 months old right now. So she's the exact same age as Boo in Monsters Inc., if you guys have seen that. So she jabbers a lot, but it's not really, it's kind of nonsensical, and she's always just kind of bubbling around, which is a lot of fun because, she's not old enough to like talk back. I mean, she talks back a little bit, but it's nonsensical, so it's really fun. So yeah, I think I'd probably do that during the day, and I would just, I'd go for drinks with my friends, and then I'd end the day by doing this. And if I had to wake up to a song, I thought about this a lot this week. I thought of three different things. First, I thought that, like, Brand New, the band, is my favorite band, and I'd like to, like, if I had to listen to one song only for the rest of my life, it'd probably be "Okay, I Believe You," but my Tommy Gun Don't by Brand New. But if I was gonna wake up to a song and I didn't want to like get sick of it, for some reason my mind went immediately to Queen, and it'd be either Bohemian Rhapsody or Under Pressure with David Bowie. Those are like either of those two songs. Like if I woke up every morning to that, that'd be an amazing start to a day.
No, that's a perfect selection.
What did you come up with, Will? What did you think?
Well, I mean, no big issue here, but like to see the movie, I think you'd get a better perspective. So I think you'll enjoy the movie because he like based on what you said, he does a lot of those same things. He actually robs a ATM armored truck.
Because why not, right?
He times it out. He knows exactly when the two guards aren't paying attention.
Yeah. So, even if you get arrested, this is all going to reset, right?
Yeah. And he actually ends up starting to kill himself and waking up the next day. Because after a while, you're living the same day over and over again. You're going to drive yourself crazy, especially because it's kind of lonely. Because he's like, I guess the character itself is a bit lonely.
Oh.
Because in the end, he falls in love with this girl. He finds a way to like, I don't know, give away. He basically finds somebody living the same day over and over again.
Well, it's kind of like like that movie 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler, right? Like if you weren't with somebody, you'd have to if you fell in love with somebody, you'd have to convince them to fall in love with you every single day.
He definitely, like, that's the thing. He learns all the little things about her that like makes her fall in love with him a little bit, or like he learns what she likes, what she doesn't like,
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I go, I mean, it would be really kind of crazy. I'd probably spend a lot of days playing video games, like just sitting at the the PlayStation.
That's kind of the one thing that would suck about that, though, is like you're stuck with the same games.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But not only that, but like whatever progression you make in that game, the next day you got to start all over again.
There's no such thing as a save game. You could never beat a game.
I got to beat the game today. But if you're living the same day over and over again, like just say a million days, it's all the same. You probably would get bored with everything that you do.
You'd get so good at Donkey Kong, bro.
I finally beat Mario.
You'd be like that guy on the internet that could beat Mario, like the original Mario, in like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, like I just blink and it's done.
What song would you listen to? What's your song? If you had to listen to one song every day for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I don't know. This is that when I posted the question, it's hard for me because granted, in a movie, he hates the song. It's like the song that goes off when his alarm goes off. So it's just whatever was on the radio. So he didn't like, it's not like he chose it. But for me, it would be a song that I would want to hear to kind of excite me for the day. I don't know. I posted the question. I didn't know then, and I still don't know now. I'll have to get back to you.
So
maybe by the end of the show, I'll know.
Okay. Well, we posted this question on Facebook, and we got some pretty good responses. Chucky over at Knights of the Octagon, he's one of the guys that hosts the show with Mike W. He said for skills, he would become a master musician on every instrument, which I could see. That'd be pretty cool. He'd also become a weapons specialist. He'd get better at MMA training and whiskey making. Whiskey making is definitely an art that you could spend some time learning. And for his song, he put "As the Worm Turns" by Faith No More. So that's kind of a nice little. I don't know. I think you'd get sick of that song, to be quite honest with you. But hey, that's his dream, right?
Yeah.
Your wife left a response as well. What does she say?
She said she would learn a lot of languages and learn how to be a top chef, which would, I guess, really benefit me.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And pretty much eat anything she wants, that is a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Because you're not like, you can literally just pig out for a day straight and you're not going to have any repercussions for it.
Yeah, that's true. Why? Like I said, I would mountain bike. Why would I bother? That's not going to do anything. I'm going to wake up as weak as I was, but I wouldn't wake up sore. I'd wake up feeling exactly the same. So I'll redact that from my answer. That's a good point. What was her, if she had to pick a song, what is her song?
So her song would be 10 Minutes by the Get Up Kids, which is her favorite band, which I think that's a good selection. Speaking of song selection, I do like what Mike W says. He wants to hear "Here I Go Again" by Whitesnake.
Yeah,
which is probably a good song for if you're repeating the day over and over again. You know.
Yeah, that's actually when he posted that. Like I was like, yeah, that's. And my mom left a comment too, but she commented like, yeah, that's a good choice for that song. And then I made sure to give him crap about not knowing what Redbox was, but you'll have to listen to their show to hear all about that nonsense. But Mike said he'd become the best saxophone player ever. And for those of you who don't know, he actually used to play in a jazz band, which is pretty cool.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
And then he said I'd become a chess grandmaster. He said he'd open a Redbox account and learn how to play a DVD or Blu-ray.
Oh man, that's embarrassing. It's as if it's like difficult, man. Come on.
It's really funny because you guys should listen to their show if you listen to our show, because there's a lot of back and forth. Like we did last week, we did the episode where we rated, the movies that are coming out in the spring, and one of our ratings in the system was, this is a movie I'll wait for Redbox. And poor Mike Whittles is listening to this. He lives in New York. He's like, what the heck is a freaking Redbox?
I'm convinced that like Redbox is everywhere. Like it's like real close to him. He's just completely ignored it or hasn't even noticed that they exist.
I don't know. In a world where you have to walk, like he doesn't own a car, in a world where you have to walk everywhere, I would see that maybe it wouldn't be on your radar because, even if the closest Redbox to him is a mile away, that's still, he has to somehow walk that mile. And if he's going to go just to go to a Redbox, like to take it back, for example, he has to walk a 2-mile round trip just to take it back, right?
Yeah, I can see where that'd be an issue. I don't know. I remember going to like some middle of nowhere town outside of Cleveland in Ohio, and the town, I mean, it was like a small town, but they didn't have a Redbox. And this is back in 2010, 2011. I mean, I remember just being baffled. I'm like, how dare they not have a Redbox? Like, why do the gas stations or McDonald's not have a Redbox?
Yeah. And I mean, Mike's point on his show was, if I'm going to watch something, I'm going to just, rent it digitally, which, if I was a baller like Mike, I would, if I made that kind of, I'm like, I can go to Redbox for $1.50, or I guess it's kind of stupid because I complain about a $3.99 rental, which is usually what it is on Amazon. Really,
that's
really not that much money when you think about it. I mean, that's, a third of a price of a movie ticket, right? So
I guess that's true. I mean, you really think about it. Redbox is $2 for Blu-ray. Amazon is like $3.99.
Yeah, for like the HD version or whatever.
Really
not that big a deal. But still, I thought it was really funny. Like he put in this thing, I'm going to open a Redbox account. You don't even have, Mike, you don't have to open a Redbox account. It's not like Blockbuster. You just got to have a damn credit card. Or a debit card. You don't have to have a credit card. You don't even have to have any credit. As long as you have an account with some money in it, you're good to go. Like you could probably use a Visa check card. I don't even know. I've never even tried. So, last response we got was from my mom, who used to do the show with me, Cindy C. Bennett. And as most of you know, she's an author. She said, I'd write a bunch of books so that I could just publish a buttload at a time, and people would think I'm the most awesome author ever. I'd also spend time as much time as possible with my grandkids before they grow up, which I'm pretty sure will happen tomorrow. So she's kind of where I am, where it's like the advantage to Groundhog's Day is that you don't have to live through watching your kids grow up, which for those of you out there listening that are parents, you know how, I mean, it's utterly painful to watch your kids get over, especially when you get, like the Facebook memories and you look back to like a year ago and you're like, gosh, dang, the kid was so small then. And like, look what happened in the last year. You don't notice it in real time, but when when Facebook nudges you and reminds you, it's kind of sad.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's a good one. We're going to kind of do this segment, like once a week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll have that kind of floating around. Kind of, I don't know what day do we usually post that on. Will, is it like
Monday, Tuesday?
Monday, Tuesday, we post something on our website. We usually promote it so it hits your timeline because Facebook's weird like that. And then you guys can leave your responses there and kind of let us know what you think. If you have a hypothetical, we're always out for ideas too. So if you have a hypothetical that you want to post out there, just hit us up at facebook.com/Geek Revolution Radio. And, we're always open to suggestions. So
yeah, that's good.
I thought we'd, we had some pretty good feedback from the airing a grievance video you did. And then we got some feedback also from, we talked a little bit about the airing a grievance you did last week. And I think it's, from the people who listen to our show, I think it's kind of one of their favorite or one of their more liked segments we do. It just occurred to me this week that I haven't had a chance to air my grievance about the video game Star Wars Battlefront.
It's a very valid point.
Yeah.
I think.
So I thought I'd just, take a minute before we go to a break and get to the Star Trek for Star Wars. This might be, kind of a nice little lead in. So Star Wars Battlefront came out about a month. I think it was actually exactly a month before episode 7. So in my mind, I was, watching the stuff online. And I was like, man, this Star Wars Battlefront looks like an awesome game. Basically starting, around a little bit before Thanksgiving time this last year, I was like, the game's going to come out. I'm going to get consumed with it like I was with Destiny. I'm going to play Battlefront for a month straight until the movie comes out. I'm going to hit the movie and it's just going to be all Star Wars all the time. And then Battlefront came out and like I played it for a couple, like maybe a night, the first night. And I was like, man, that's a fun game. And then I got on the next day and I made sure to carve out like a lot of time in that day just to sit down and play it. And I got bored of it probably about 6 or so hours in, because unlike the previous iterations of Star Wars Battlefront, which we have all come to love and adore, they did not bother with a campaign mode in this game. The only thing, this game is basically a glorified first-person shooter with multiplayer only. It's basically like if you're running around in Battlefront and you're only playing multiplayer, it's like that with Stormtroopers and Rebels. And there's a lot of things that are annoying about it. First of all, it makes you switch off between Stormtrooper, the Imperial Stormtroopers and the Rebels every round you play. So a lot of the time when the rounds start out, I have to like try and remember what the heck side I'm on and which side I'm supposed to be shooting, because everything all blends together after you've been playing for a little bit. That annoyed me. And secondly, I don't know how they couldn't put a campaign in this show or in the game. How did they not go with a campaign? The thing that was the greatest about Battlefront 1 and 2, which I think were on the original Xbox, the thing that was great about them was that you could play out the scenes that were in the movies. You could play, episode 4, A New Hope. You could play as Darth Vader when that blast door opens at the very beginning of the movie, and you're using the Force and blowing away rebels to try and find the stolen Death Star plans. You could play through all of that. You could play as a Wookiee on Kashyyyk or a Stormtrooper on Kashyyyk and run around and shoot, Wookiees or shoot Stormtroopers or whatever. For some reason, when they decided to redo Battlefront and they decided to opt, there was kind of an iteration of a Battlefront 3, and then they kind of scrapped it once Disney bought it and decided to, outsource this game to some company over in Europe that this is the only game they've ever made. And they're like, no, we're just going to create a Battlefront multiplayer within the Star Wars universe. And we think that that'll be good enough to tide over our players in a post-Destiny world. The game Destiny is amazing. As far as I'm concerned, other than Final Fantasy VII back on PS1, Destiny is my favorite game. It is definitely my favorite first-person shooter post GoldenEye for Nintendo 64. The thing that made Destiny great was that I could get online with my friends back in Utah. It was kind of a first-person shooter MMO for those of you that haven't played it. We could run around, every time we could get together and play, we could run around together and play through different campaigns and different stories that existed in this very vast world that they created in Destiny. It got in my mind at some point that from what I saw, on the stuff coming out about Star Wars Battlefront before it was released, that Star Wars Battlefront was basically going to be some version of this just with Star Wars, which would have been perfect, because as far as I'm concerned, Destiny would have been a perfect game had it taken place in the Star Wars universe. It's made by the guys that used to make Halo, so that should give you a little bit of a clue of what kind of artillery they're dealing with. But Battlefront came out, and there's a couple single player, like not even really story modes, but just like rounds that you can play that are
Yeah.
completely boring after you've played them twice.
I don't know. I agree with you. I feel like it was poorly put together. It was rushed. It's really messy. I just, I don't know. I asked you a question right before I started playing. Like I would literally bought my PlayStation 4, bought that game with it, and was super excited to play. And I said, hey, man, on a scale of Jar Jar Binks to Darth Vader, where do you think this game falls in line? Because I didn't read into it. I didn't look at like game reviews or anything like that. I just saw the commercials, and the commercials got me pumped.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like you, I was excited about it. And then you said, I want to say you said like it was closer to Jar Jar.
See, I was real when you asked me that, I was real hesitant to tell you anything at all because I didn't know if maybe my expectations were too high or maybe I just had it wrapped up in my mind. So I wasn't real vocal about how much I disliked the game right out of the gates. I mean,
yeah,
I played with some of my friends. Like, I don't know if Brian Pope listens to this show anymore. We've had him on a couple times, but I played with him. And, you know, after we had been playing for about like the third day we got together after work and played, I was like, man, this game sucks. You know?
Yeah. And I was really disappointed. I think you had said that you felt it was closer to Jar Jar, and I was like, well, I'm still kind of excited to play. I still want to check it out.
Yeah.
And I played it for maybe 2-3 days, and I haven't touched it since.
Yeah.
Like I feel like so let down by it because it's so choppy, it's messy. The gameplay itself doesn't even feel that enjoyable. Like you go through this mission or like a campaign, a war, battle, whatever, and then it's over. Like I feel no joy out of it, no satisfaction.
You can level up your character kind of, but it doesn't really get you any real benefits in the game other than being able to purchase some different guns and stuff like that. But
who cares? Who cares about that?
The thing that was beautiful about Destiny is as you played throughout the game and there was daily challenges, so you could do different challenges. Like they had a whole bunch of different challenges you could do every single day. And if you didn't want to do a challenge, you could throw it out and pick up another one, Yeah. Plus they had the regular campaign, which you could run through with your friends. We should play Destiny, Will. I think you'd really, really enjoy playing Destiny.
Just hearing you talk about it gets me excited.
Destiny is awesome. But the other thing about Battlefront is even for a multiplayer first-person shooter, it wasn't even that good of a multiplayer game.
No. I'm a really big Call of Duty fan. Like I like the Modern Warfare. I liked the Advanced Warfare that came out, and so to me, this game was like, oh, it's going to be kind of like that. Call of Duty meets Star Wars. Kind of your same thing. You're relating a game to it and saying this is going to be the best of both worlds. And it wasn't.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah,
and it saddens me to say that because I love Star Wars.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, I guess if I had to, like when you asked me, you're like, is it closer to Jar Jar or what is it? I think it's an Ewok. I think it's one of those things where at first it kind of catches your attention and you're a little intrigued. You're like, what is this all about? But if you had to spend any significant amount of time around the Ewoks, you'd be like, get these guys out of here.
It's pretty accurate assessment.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people here's the thing is a lot of people bought Battlefront, but I think a lot of people out there are feeling the same kind of pains that we are because they're having a hard time. From what I've read online, they're having a really hard time getting the people that bought the game to come back and keep playing it. And if you look at Electronic Arts Incorporated, if you look at their stock, they have taken a bath in the past 3 or 4 weeks, and it's because their earnings came out and they hit it big in December with the selling of Battlefront and some of the the sports games they made. But they're having, as far as their January outlook and their first quarter of this year looks horrible because people are nobody wants to play Battlefront anymore. And I've got a few friends ask me, "Oh, we should jump on and play." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll jump on and play with you, but I'm going to be bored of it again for another month after about 3 hours. I can play it for about 3 hours and then I'm like, okay, I'm good on this for a month or two now,
Yeah, I think a good indication is you and I are big Star Wars fans. and we both have Battlefront, but neither one of us have played together. That's a good indication of how crappy the game is.
Me and you have never played Battlefront together.
Yeah, haven't.
Another clear indication is that they have all this, they're developing all of this, add-on stuff that you can buy. They gave away the Jakku expansion or whatever you want to call it. And for what I hear, they're going to give away the next one too, just to try and get people to come back and play it. I mean, I think they should, if they're going to like create, add-ons and stuff like that, they need to just go straight up and create a campaign mode. And if they can't just create a campaign mode to add to this game, scrap Battlefront as it is and just start on a new one. Start on another Battlefront game. Start with your campaign. Make it kind of... if they made a Destiny style of first-person shooter, the game would make billions and billions of dollars because that's the kind of game that people want. The thing that's beautiful about Destiny is there's a lot of comeback. Like they have their challenges you can do daily. And then every week they have challenges that you can do on some of the harder missions, I guess you can call them. So you can go and play those, and they all require you to play with your friends. Like Battlefront, you can go on there by yourself and just play the multiplayer by yourself all day long and just play with, noobs and idiots out there. Destiny is one of those games where there are certain challenges in the game where they will not automatically pair you with people on the internet. You have to get friends and bring them into the mission with you to beat it. That's the only way to beat it.
That's interesting.
You can upload you can upgrade your character as far as this level goes, and you can upgrade all of your weapons and all of your armor, which is really fun.
Yeah. So,
I mean, and there's the different styles of shooting, and I mean, it's just Destiny is a really, really great game. Battlefront, that's what I wanted to air my grievance about this week is Battlefront, and it's a good thing that Episode 7 was such a good movie, because if not, my Star Wars Force Ghost would have just been completely broken.
I don't know what I believe in anymore.
Disney ruined everything I love.
yeah, that would have been really rough. I agree with you. If Episode 7 would have stunk, I don't know if I could hold the faith.
Yeah, we'd just be dreaming of the days of the prequels, unfortunately. But
just watch those over and over again.
And sometimes I think about that. I'm like, in an alternate universe somewhere, there is a bad Episode 7 made by whoever, by Michael Bay. Michael Bay made a terrible Star Wars with no plot at all, just like racist Jedis and who knows what else.
Transformer looking some of the others.
Yeah, but we don't live in that. If you're listening to this show, we don't live in that post alternate world. Our timeline is we have a Star Wars movie that we really like, and I know we talk Star Wars a lot, like we're going to in this show, but I feel like I haven't gotten it completely out of my system on the Episode 7, so that's going to be... We might have to do another Episode 7 review, and it might be kind of fun to get some of our friends like Mike and these guys on the show to talk about their opinions and their viewpoints on the show.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Kind of see, what everyone else is feeling about it, because there's, especially there's definitely a generational thing too. It'd be kind of fun to talk to somebody that was around when the original trilogy was coming out, and see kind of how they feel about it. So we've got that in weeks to come. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to do some Star Wars versus Star Trek. So hang tight. This is Geek Revolution Radio.
Hello. You know me. I am Babe, and you're listening to Geek Revolution Radio. Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, wait. We're
What?
doing this over again.
That was perfect.
No.
You didn't, what?
Okay, hold up a second.
Hello?
No.
What?
Okay, here, I'll
What?
cue you in, and we'll go
You do
down.
not cue me in.
Okay, I'm not
Hello?
trying to say
I
anything.
work for ADO Radio, and I'm trying to do a plug for Geek Revolution Radio.
Okay, I'm gonna start it right now. Ready?
Okay.
Go.
Ready? Hello, this is Babe. You know me. I am from ADO Radio, and I am promoting Geek Revolution Radio.
We gotta do
Right?
this one more time.
Is that the way it goes?
No, you did it wrong.
What?
No, okay, just Geek Revolution Radio.
Okay.
Make it legible.
All right.
Okay.
What, are you making fun of my speech?
No, I'm just enunciate. It's
I do
not
one
beyond your
take and one
grasp,
take
dude.
only.
Okay.
Under protest. All
Okay.
right, go ahead, go. I'm ready. You all know me. You know what I do for a living? I'm Ben. I'm from ADO Radio, and you're listening to Geek Revolution Radio. Is that good? Yeah. Okay.
I'm Mike W.
I'm Mike T.
And we're from the Other Mike and Mike show over at theothermikes.com. And right now, you're listening to Geek Revolution Radio. Bitches!
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Her ongoing mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Hello and welcome back to Geek Revolution Radio. This is your host Ryan Bennett, and I'm here with Will, and we are ready to break down our Star Wars versus Star Trek. Will, where do you want to start today? I mean, there's so much to talk about. What do you want to start with?
Well, I'm excited about talking about Star Trek. I'll be honest. I like Star Trek. I loved Star Trek Enterprise, or Star Trek The Next Generation, I should say. That was the show that my family watched in the early 90s. That was our show. And so when I look back at my geek roots, Star Trek has some really, really deep planted roots. I mean, Star Wars, or the fourth or fifth movie, Star Trek, I should say, was the first movie I'd ever seen in the theater. Like, my dad, I remember, took me to go see it. It was the one with the whales. I mean, that's all I really remember. It was Star Trek with whales. But I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. So this is a really interesting discussion for me.
So I'm definitely falling in a little different place on this than I was, let's say, a year and a half or 2.5 years ago. Before we knew J.J. Abrams was going to do a Star Wars movie, even before J.J. Abrams did a Star Trek movie, let's say, I don't have a whole lot of interest in the TV show. I've tried to go back and watch it and try and figure out, what's so appealing about it. I've watched a couple of the old Star Trek movies. They don't do a whole lot for me, but once J.J. Abrams did the first Star Trek movie, I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm feeling this. And then when he did Into Darkness, I was, that's when I really hopped on the train. I was there in the theater on opening night for Into Darkness, and I really liked that movie. And so that's I guess where I jumped on the Star Trek train a little bit, where before I wasn't on it at all.
And I think a lot of people feel the same way as you, especially coming from your side of being really, really passionate about Star Wars. J.J. Abrams did something, I think, to bridge the gap. I think he brought people in where they weren't fans of before. Like, J.J. Abrams, to me, I've always been a really big fan of his. I felt like the movies that he's done have been really well. I liked, so even the stuff that he produces, like Cloverfield, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, he really does a great job. Not everybody likes his stuff, but I'm on board. Like, even the TV shows he's done, I've been a really big fan of. I was a really big fan of Alias and Lost. He helped produce both of those shows. So, the fact that J.J. Abrams came in and did Star Trek, I think in 2009, it really did a great service to the geek world, because I feel like beforehand, like you said, people just weren't really into the movies. People weren't into the shows if you didn't grow up with it. Like, in my case, my family, it was our thing. It's like, you ever see like people talk about a movie that they really love from their childhood, but you've never seen it before, and then they tell you, oh, you got to see it, and you go back and you watch it, you're like, this is a pile of garbage. That can be the case, I think, with Star Trek. If you never got into it, if it wasn't nostalgic for you in your youth, you're never going to have that connection. And so, the fact that J.J. Abrams comes in and says, this is how, I'm going to make a movie that's for the masses. It's interesting though. J.J. Abrams does this whole for the masses kind of a film, and a lot of Star Trek fans out there didn't like it. I've heard true Trekkies talk about how much they don't like the J.J. Abrams version because it's too mainstream. It's too kind of for the masses, whereas then they want the more political, the more, they're on a kind of, peacekeeper kind of mission versus going in all guns blazing. You know what I mean?
Well, you kind of touched on it. You know why they don't like it, right? I have a theory. They don't like Star Trek, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, because it's too Star Warsy.
That's a very interesting point. I mean, because you look at the two movies that he did, and I feel like they're very action packed, whereas in the other ones, there's action in the movies, but it's not the main plot point.
Yeah, it's more about like the relationships or the politics, right?
Right.
You would say that the J.J. Abrams movies of Star Trek are, would you say, faster and more intense?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case. I think you see that right off the bat in the very first movie when the starship is being attacked. I mean, that's like right off the bat, very intense, action paced, kind of a movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I think the funny thing is, I've always thought before Star Wars 7 came out and before we found out J.J. Abrams was going to make it, the thing I always said was, of course, the new Star Trek movies are good. J.J. Abrams, basically, they told him he couldn't make a Star Wars movie or nobody offered one to him. So he took Star Trek and made a Star Wars movie out of Star Trek. And that's why I think I was able to buy into it as much as I have and why I like it, because those are obviously the types of movies that I like. And that's probably why it's hard for me to get on board with the older Star Trek stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can respect it for what it is, but when people come in here and try and tell me that Picard is better than Han Solo, they can just stop themselves right there.
I don't know. I think when you say that, I think of Patrick Stewart and just how phenomenal he is, and my love for Patrick Stewart came from Next Generation. So, but it's hard. Like this is where that versus comes in.
Yeah.
They Han Solo, he kicks butt up and down the street. He's the best ever. But there are people, and this image in my mind, I think, comes from the movie. Was it Fanboys?
I love that movie.
I love that movie too, and I love the scene where there's literally a battle in the streets between Star Trek and Star Wars fans.
With Seth, because somebody calls Han Solo a bitch. It's Seth Rogen's character calls Han Solo a bitch, and they get in a huge fight.
Yeah.
My favorite line in that movie is at the beginning, like the guys have a comic book store and some Trekkies walk into the store and they have a phaser right by the front. He says, "Hey, how much for the phaser?" And he says, "The phaser? It's not for sale. We keep it there to keep Trekkie bitches out like you out of here. Now get lost." It's like that's a great movie. And I guess that kind of leads into my next topic. Let's compare apples and apples. Let's compare the original, let's say the original show, the one with Shatner. Let's compare that to the original Star Wars. Which is better? Which do you prefer?
Well, considering that I can't, I remember on sick days or days where I was at home in my youth watching old Star Trek and not really getting into it. I mean, when I was young, I liked it, but I couldn't even say I like it today.
Yeah.
And I love the original trilogy. So to me, Star Wars is hands down the better of the two. The show, I think, only ran for 2 seasons. 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's only like 3, something like that.
Later, the crew and they got Second Life. They had a movie come out, and then there was Wrath of Khan, and then they had a couple other movies come out after that. But
no, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I definitely feel like if we compare the original Star Trek with the original Star Wars, that by far and away the original Star Wars is better. Where it starts to get interesting, though, is if we compare Star Trek: The Next Generation with the prequel Star Wars movies. I think that then it's a little bit less clear. I think that maybe in that case, I think I would probably go with the Next Generation.
Well, I would have to agree with you in terms of which one I like more. I don't know. It's still a difficult choice for me because it's like, saying which one's like, I hate doing this in the world of geek. It's like, which one's your favorite child? I like them both. I like them both a lot, but it's hard for me to say one's better than the other or one's liked above the other because Star Trek Next Generation has a lot of, it was definitely one of those kind of early 90s shows where you have like different adventures each week. So you have like a different adventure each week. And it was, you really got into the characters. I even like the movies. Like there were a handful of Star Trek Next Generation movies that came out over the course of, 10 years.
Yeah.
They were all really good to me and I really enjoyed those. And so I look at that and I think about the prequels. A lot of people kind of don't like the prequels. There are a lot of hate when people think about the first three movies. A lot of critics specifically will say, "Oh, we're going to have to sit through these three," or whatever. They have like really negative views of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I feel like critically, the Next Generation was pretty critically enjoyed. People liked them. So I'd say like in the masses, probably you got more people that liked Next Generation.
Yeah. And why, well, I guess you kind of lightly tapped on it, but why there's definitely maybe not so much now that episode 7 and the new Star Trek movies has come out, but prior to that, there was definitely a lot of competition between the two. Like as far as, we talked about the movie Fanboys as a perfect example where there's, usually you were one or the other. You weren't a fan of Star Trek and Star Wars. You were either a Trekkie or a Star Wars fan. Why do you think it is? Why do you think that rivalry exists?
I think it's just as simple as Apple or PC, Democrat or Republican. You have this thing and it's just part of you, part of your DNA. You like one over the other. You have, family ties to it. There's a number of things that draws one person to one or the other.
Yeah.
You watched it in your youth.
Well,
all these different. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, they're both sci-fi, so I guess I would definitely say that they're both at the top of the game for the sci-fi genre, right? I mean, if we're going to I can definitely lay out in no particular order, the top 4 have got to be Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, and Firefly. Those are the 4. Like outside of those 4, there's a huge drop to number 5, whatever it might be. You know what I mean? So maybe the reason that Star Trek and Star Wars has always been compared is one, they've both been around a long time. They both kind of started, and George Lucas has said that there were times where he was kind of inspired by the original Star Trek when he made Star Wars. So they definitely have that over, Star Trek definitely has that over Star Wars. But I mean, as far as the original trilogy of Star Wars, it blew the lid off. He was doing it better than Star Trek could ever even have dreamt of doing it, even in the Next Generation. It's like I said, it's where the prequels start to get a little murky, and maybe that's the reason why, like you said, with Apple and Android are always compared, or Apple and Mac or PC are always comparing each other. Maybe it's just because they're the top 2 in their respective fields, and they're so close that it's it's hard to pick one over the other. But it still is very strange to me that there's not a lot of prior to J.J. Abrams, there wasn't a lot of crossover.
No, and I think really I feel like they both break it down. They both star in their name, Star Wars, Star Trek. And so there's that connection.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like that plays a role in, like, if one was titled something differently, I don't think they would have as much of a gap or a divide in terms of fans.
Yeah. And if we're gonna then compare J.J. Abrams, let's go and compare J.J. Abrams with what he did with Star Wars and what he did with the 2 Star Trek movies. I'll come right out and say it. I liked the cinematography in either of the Star Trek movies more than Star Wars, despite the fact that he used a lot of practical effects. He gets a lot of crap for the lens flares and stuff like that, but I feel like it gave that universe like definitely a feel and a style to it.
Yeah, I mean that he definitely brought a J.J. Abrams style to the franchise.
Yeah,
he made it his own, and I think that's part of why it's good. Why I like Star Trek today is because of what he did.
Yeah. Well, and they're great stories. I mean, I like that. There's edgier characters. It's like it seems like Spock is a lot more Spock. And what's the captain in Star Trek?
Kirk.
Kirk is a lot edgier than he was in the like how he was originally designed. He's kind of a bad boy, and I like that they also took the Star Trek universe and said, despite the fact that all this other canon exists and all these other movies, we're gonna go back and make this movie where they all have gone through this weird black wormhole, and we're gonna create like an alternate universe of Star Trek, and in that alternate universe, Spock was originally supposed to be the captain, and this and that happened, and we're gonna have crossover where Spock can come, original Spock can come back and be in with the new Spock, and they definitely nailed the actors they picked to play in the new Star Trek. They nailed. There's no doubt about it.
No, I agree. I mean, you take the classic characters and you assign today's, like whenever you do a reboot. It's always kind of on solid ground. You have to pick the right people for the characters, and sometimes you just go with really kind of, I don't know, like I feel like some reboots they don't do a really good job of casting, but I agree with you. I feel like Chris Pine was a great Captain Kirk.
Oh yeah.
Just from the beginning of the movie, you get this really enjoyable character. He's charismatic. He's a fighter. You love.
He's a mess at times. Yeah, we can all I think relate to him a little bit. And then you have the guy from American Horror Story playing Spock, and
Zachary Quinto.
Yeah, Quinto's great too.
Yeah. I mean, I like him in almost everything that he's done. So this was a really good movie, and I think you look at that at the list because there are all these other like characters on the ship. You've got like Bones and Scotty and Sulu.
Simon Pegg as Scotty. That was great. I mean, they nailed that.
I like all the people that they got for him, even like Carl Urban, which I'm not the biggest Carl Urban fan, but I feel like he's like his character in the old show was very close with Kirk, and I like his connection with Chris Pine. I feel
there's like some camaraderie there.
Relationship there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's really good. A lot of it's one of those things where I guess if the original Trek fans hate it, I almost feel bad in a way because it'd be like if they took Star Wars and made it Star Trek-y. I wouldn't like that. And arguably, maybe that's what the prequels did. Maybe the reason a lot of people didn't like the prequels was because they got too muddled down in their relationships in the politics and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
So, you got to keep faster and more intense for Star Wars, and then Star Trek, obviously does better as a TV series where you can spend some time exploring your characters, and not focus as much on the war or the space oddity part of it, So I guess you put together some pretty cool like scenarios for this Versus episode. Do you want to kind of run those down a little bit?
I'll run through them here. I thought it'd be kind of funny because I want to do this as a reoccurring segment or a series for us. We call it the Converses Versus. So basically, we're talking about verses, and I put together 4 different scenarios where you and I basically pick a side and argue what we do or what we think. And because I feel like, you're the Star Wars expert. You love Star Wars, and so you probably don't know Star Trek as well. So it'll be really interesting to see you argue for Star Trek, but you can use any characters that you know. This will be where it kind of interesting. This is not like, back in the day when we used to have Ben on the show. We did the bear versus shark bit, which is a great. I think we did 3 episodes.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we cut. Yeah, that was fun times.
it was for like all the glory. This is just for fun. But the first scenario is you have to choose 4 different characters from either the films or the TV, and basically kind of going off of last week's hypothetical, what 4-man team do you want saving you from kidnappers, and who would do a better job? And that's where you and I debate. I think these people would do a better job, and you debate your side.
Can I go Star Trek? Can I vote? Can I go in favor of Star Trek on this one?
Sure.
I can easily go in favor of Star Wars, but I feel like some of the other scenarios will be easier for me than this one.
What's that?
I said I feel like this is a good scenario that I can argue the Star Trek point of view.
Okay. Do you want to go into it now, or do you want to go through each category?
No, let's go right into scenario 1, and then we'll just move on to the next one.
Okay. Yeah. So you choose your 4, and then I'll choose my 4.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with on this one. I'm gonna take basically your main 4 Star Trek characters from the J.J. Abrams Star Trek
movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Kirk, Spock, Picard, and Bones. Those are my 4 guys. Like, I feel like with that, I've got everything I need. I've got a technical guy, I've got a doctor, I've got a super smart guy, and then I've got a guy that's kind of edgy that's going to offset the super smart guy to make a plan really come together.
Yeah.
So, and particularly in Star Trek Into Darkness, we can see the lengths that they're willing to go to save some of their own. So, arguably there was some kidnapping going on that world with Bones, but they were able to escape and get away and get back to the ship. And then you had Spock that was, risking his life, and he's supposed to be the smart guy that takes no risks, or if he does, they're very calculated. And he's down in the volcano, basically saying, well, I'm going to die here, but by me dying, I'm going to save this entire planet worth of people from this gigantic volcano that's exploding. So I feel like, more so than what the people that are, in the Star Wars universe who maybe are a little bit more about their own agendas, that you definitely want the Star Trek folks to be rescuing you if you're kidnapped.
Yeah, I agree with you on that level, because they probably work better as a team. I think the 4 that I would pick would be young Obi-Wan Kenobi, Han Solo, I guess young Han Solo, Boba Fett, and I just had the 4th one just now, but I all of a sudden forgot.
Just don't say Mace Windu.
Yeah, Mace Windu. No, I'm just kidding. Han, Obi-Wan,
Boba Fett, and Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, Jar Jar Binks. Anyway, I'll get to the 4th in a second, but like I kind of feel like, you want the bounty hunter because he's going to be able to track. You need somebody that's going to be able to find you. I feel like Han Solo is kind of Rey, duh.
Oh yeah,
like,
okay.
Who's the 4th one? But I feel like she adds a nice element to the team because she's a scavenger. She's really scrappy. She's a good fighter. I guess the 4 that I picked really, it's hard. Like, it's exactly like you said. The Star Wars movies, they're kind of all have their own little agenda. Like, even with Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's a Jedi, his whole life's dedication is to serving and helping other people. Like, I don't know. It'd be really hard for me to say, oh yeah, he's totally gonna, they're all 4 gonna work together very well.
Well, when you said your first 3, I was like, there's no way they're gonna work together well, because there's no way that Obi-Wan would get along with Han Solo very well. At least young Obi-Wan and young Han Solo wouldn't get along. We know that Han Solo and Boba Fett surely don't get along. However, I think where you have it working in your favor is Rey, because Rey would be the glue that could keep that team together and focused. I think when you add Rey into that mix, that's where your team becomes competitive against the Star Trek.
Yeah, and I think she does bring a nice glue to the team. I again think your team, because that's all their missions were rescue.
Yeah,
like
that's all they did. That's their jam.
Missions are rescue, so they're going to be the better team to do. So yeah, I think you win scenario 1.
All right, let's go to scenario 2. What do you got
All right.
there?
So this gets a little bit more fun. So if you had to choose one character from your respective world for a week to hang out with, which one would you choose? Oh no, yeah. To hang out with this person, why is that character better opposed to on the other side?
So there ain't nobody in the Star Trek universe I'd want to hang out with for a week, but there are quite a few Star Wars characters I'd like to hang out with for a week. You want to take the Trek on that? Who do you got?
Take the Trek. I mean, I think, definitely not Spock, especially the modern Spock. I mean, he's so dry. I mean, it's a very important characteristic for the movie, but he would drive me crazy.
It'd be exhausting.
Yeah. I would probably go with Kirk. Like he's probably the guy that's gonna, hook you up. He's a lot of fun, gonna have some fun at the bar, like he's crazy.
Oh yeah. Great drinking buddy for sure. There's no doubt. Right.
I think it would, like in the same vein of like if you were gonna hang out with a young Han Solo, it's like this guy is gonna be fun. You're gonna have a good time with him, and especially, you want him on your side,
Oh, you just basically blew my mind there a little bit. I want to warp this scenario a little bit. Instead of hanging out with him for a week, who would you rather be your drinking buddy for a night? Captain Kirk or Han Solo?
Oh man.
Whoa, right? Like, because I would have picked Han Solo for your scenario, with who you can hang out with a week. I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna zip around. I'm gonna play Chewie for a week. That sounds like fun. But
right.
A drinking buddy, like then I think, yeah, now we're talking apples and apples.
Well, I think I would have to. I'm gonna side with Kirk on this one because I feel like at the end of the night, Han Solo might split on you. He might, because he needs to get away quickly. He might leave you hanging like in the alley or something. Whereas in Kirk's not gonna leave you in the alley.
Solo might straight up get you killed.
What's that?
Solo might get you killed. You might get shot.
Yeah.
Like you never, like the places he hangs out with all the scum and villainy and stuff, like
he owes everybody money.
Yeah. Kirk might get you laid. You never know. You know what I mean? Like I'm with you, it'd be fun to go drinking with Solo, but as we all know, he shoots first, so I don't know. Maybe he'd be he wouldn't be able to back you up in a fight. I think he'd probably flee. Whereas Kirk kind of seems like the kind of guy you'd really, really want to, he'd have your back. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this, I think that's a fun one. That was kind of fun. I like scenario 3. You have to choose the 3 weakest characters from the opposite side, and I choose the 3 from the opposite side. So, right. Let's figure out who's going to do what.
I'll take the 3 weakest on Star Wars. I don't know enough about Star Trek to pick the 3 weakest.
Okay. So I'll do the 3 weakest from Star Trek. So, I'm going to tell you who's on your team. These are the 3 from your team. Wesley, who is one, Will Wheaton,
Wesley Crusher.
Probably would go with, I don't know. Simon Pegg is kind of, Scotty. He's very tech oriented, but he's definitely not a fighter.
Yeah.
Because the scenario is now we have to argue who would win in a fight based on the 3, the poorly dealt hand that I gave you. So you got Scotty, you got Will Wheaton, and probably Data from the Next Generation.
What's he gonna do? Talk them to death? Okay, so that's my Star Trek team. So I'm gonna pick your Star Wars team now. I'm definitely picking Mace Windu. And where you think he might be good in a fight, he'd probably just end up killing your entire team and the other team as well as himself. Who knows? So definitely him. I was gonna say an Ewok because an Ewok is weak, but those guys are scrappy. They could they'd be beneficial probably in a fight. So I'm gonna give you one of the droids, the army droids from
Okay.
I'm gonna give you one
I
of
was
them.
gonna say like one of the stormtroopers from the original movie. Because
No,
they don't hit.
I think the droids are even less useful, especially when you just have one of them. Like they don't.
Yeah,
What are they doing? They
hit
don't
'em.
even have fingers. They can't hit nothing. And then just to throw chaos into it, I got to give you Jar Jar Binks, right?
I mean, he's the one that's gonna end up, destroying them all.
Yeah, and I feel good about that because in a fight, Jar Jar Binks would accidentally figure out some way to give me supreme power and just destroy the galaxy.
I honestly think my team beats your team.
Yeah, you pick some pretty poor. I got no fight on my side. Like my Star Trek characters, we haven't got any game at all.
No, you don't have any warriors. I mean, Will Wheaton or like Wesley, he's not like weak, but he's just young, so he's not going to be able to do a lot of fighting. Scotty, he might be able to do a little fighting, but he's definitely no Kirk. And then Data, he's a robot. He's an android. He's not built for fighting. He's built for kind of computing.
And you've got you've got a lightsaber on your side. Now, let me ask you, if I change my mind here, and you obviously win because I think Mace Windu, he has a lightsaber, he'd probably just kill everybody, like I said.
Yeah,
if I switch out Mace Windu for a young Episode 1 Anakin Skywalker, so you got Anakin Skywalker, a droid, and Jar Jar Binks. What?
Yeah, this is a battle between slapping each other. There's no winning here.
Who can annoy the other person into giving up? I think that's what it is, right?
I mean, I think Data and the droid kind of balance out. I think they both kill each other. I think Will Wheaton takes Anakin, and I think who was the third?
So you had Jar Jar, you had a single droid, and
Jar Jar,
and young Anakin.
And then Scotty versus Jar Jar. I kind of feel like Scotty out thinks Jar Jar.
I think that Scotty would offend Jar Jar into killing himself, right?
he would have convinced him. Yeah, kill yourself, dude.
Just go away.
It's a fun scenario, but definitely very slapstick. Nothing. It'd be the worst fight ever.
The most boring. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I say it's almost a draw, but the tech crew, or the Star Trek crew, just barely wins this fight.
Probably just barely in that one.
Yeah. So then we choose your 3 characters from your franchise and debate who you think would win in a fight.
I gotta take Star Wars. I mean, I don't even think we need to pick, right? I mean, the guys in Star Trek, that's the one thing they don't have working for them. They have a little bit of hand-to-hand combat in the movies, but they mostly get their butts kicked, right?
In Star Trek?
In Star Trek, yeah, they mostly kind of get beat up and broken by guys with staffs and stuff like that. You throw a lightsaber into that mix, and ain't nobody on Star Trek gonna have hands. It's a done deal.
I think in the new movies you see kind of a more push towards combat.
Yeah.
Whereas in the old shows, they weren't so driven by combat, and I think that's again going back to where the fans don't like the new movies, is because it's so action and combat driven. Because of that, I think Kirk and I think Spock. I would go with Spock. I would go with Kirk, and I would go with I don't know. I'm trying to think. Probably Sulu. Sulu's kind of a very especially that scene in the first movie when he goes down onto that platform. You know, he had like the two little swords with him, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're all three pretty good fighters in terms of the new movies. You know, Spock's maybe the lesser of the three, but I think he could still hold his own. And it's again like this is where like the two franchises differ is the Force. Like you mention it.
Yeah, so if I had to pick 3 characters from the Star Wars franchise, and you didn't say they had to be from the movies, you said franchise.
Franchise. Yeah.
I pick Darth Vader's, and without a doubt, and I'm talking Darth Vader mid rise to power. So after episode 3 and before episode 4. Like I'm talking,
Okay.
like there's an episode of Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels with Darth Vader. It's the cartoon thing that's on Disney right now with Vader, and he's like throwing ships around. He's crazy powerful. So I gotta go like Vader around that time in his life.
Okay.
Then I gotta go Darth Revan from the Old Republic, because he was like a pioneer in the, you know, in what was going on way back then. He's just mega powerful with the Force. He's a great swordsman with a lightsaber. And then for number 3, I've got to go like 10 years before episode 1 with Darth Plagueis, or Darth Sidious, who is the Emperor. He killed Darth Plagueis, his master. So you got to go a little bit before episode 1, the guy that became the Emperor, like right when he was in his prime. And I think with those 3 guys, I mean, obviously they're all Sith Lords, so there's going to be no... The one thing that Star Trek doesn't have going for it is they're real about doing the right thing, whereas those 3 guys on Star Wars are just out to destroy you, and they'll do anything in their power just to destroy you, and at any means possible. And they have the Force, and they have lightsabers. I mean, it's just...
So I'm gonna draw a comparison and say this is brains versus brawn in a sense, because they're all powerful, and the three guys from Star Trek that I picked don't really have power,
right? But
they have brain. To me, it reminds me of the fight between Batman and Superman.
Okay.
A lot of people say Batman would figure out the ways. He would be smart enough to figure out how to defeat Superman, and that's why he would win the fight. And so I think the 3 that I chose are going to basically kind of dodge around being killed until they can figure out how to stop them. The question is how long they could dance around without being killed before they die.
Well, and you completely discount though with that Darth Sidious, the Emperor, has no brains, and I would argue that he's got more brains in his mind than any of the other 5. He's calling all the shots in the entire fight. He's got more brains, in my opinion, than Spock. Spock is very technical, but in a fight, Sidious is going to figure out the long game. He's going to figure out not how to win the battle, but how to win the war. He's a long-term. Right? Yeah, he's a chess player. You're exactly right. So I think when you throw Darth Sidious, like if I'd have picked like the 3, you know, like if I'd have picked Obi-Wan, Vader, and let's say, and also Anakin, you know, 2 different versions of Vader, then yeah, sure, you outsmart us for sure. But I think Sidious, that's why I picked him, because he throws a wrench into that whole thing. Where I've got one guy that's an enforcer, I've got one guy that's a mega Force user, and then I've got another guy that's just, he's all brains.
Right. Yeah, I think Star Wars takes the victory on this one, and I think it's just because there's something about the power, like, yeah, and I think that's where Star Trek is different. Like, it's fundamentally different. I think this is where we draw a basic kind of understanding of both franchises. You know, Star Trek is about, to me, it's about, you know, your relationship in the universe. It's your relationship with other people, meeting and defending different people. Mm-hmm. Whereas in it's all personal, all relationship. Whereas in Star Wars, to me, is the understanding or development of your own personal power,
Yeah.
of your personal ability. So it's all very inter. Whereas I feel like Star Trek is all outer.
Yeah, Star Wars is definitely a lot less about helping the common good or helping everybody. It's more about leveling up your own character, like you said. But Star Trek is definitely more communal. It's hard to say that word. Communal in nature, as far as they're gonna go where no man has gone before, and they're not going there just to explore. They're also going there to help protect and defend these people. A lot of the times from themselves,
Right.
So I guess that's the one benefit, that Star Trek has in this whole thing. But in that last one, Star Wars is definitely the clear getaway, and that's I guess what makes them both really interesting too. It makes me wonder with something like Star Trek, if there was some sort of sorcery in it, some sort of the version of the Force and lightsabers, if there was that kind of stuff in Star Trek, maybe the reason I don't like Star Trek is it's too realistic.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
I mean, if you gave me a choice though, where they said you can either live in your current world or you can live in a Star Trek world, I'm on my way. Like, I just want to fly around in a spaceship. I don't care if it's a Millennium Falcon or the Enterprise. I'm down either way. They both sound really fun, and I just I don't know. They both seem like they're both really cool worlds. That's what I want to get at. They both have their merits. I don't think at this point it's fair to say, and I know this is going to sound weird coming from me, I don't think it's fair to say that one is better than the other anymore. Especially in a post J.J. Abrams world. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So maybe we can put this thing to rest finally. We have a common ancestor. I've actually heard a lot of the Star Trek people, maybe not so much like the real, hipster Star Trek fans, but the ones that are more casual fans, like they've gotten into Star Wars, in the new movie. I mean, obviously it made as much money. There's definitely a pretty large number of those people that must have been Star Trek fans, so it's kind of cool that we're living in a world where they can both find a common ground. It's not so much like it was, in the days of us against them kind of thing,
It's that war, that battle is no longer being fought, I don't think.
Yeah. As far as costumes go, Star Wars has got way better costumes though. Like the shirts are boring.
I think we just come to a conclusion that our episode isn't appropriately titled because it's not really verses anymore.
Yeah. I know we did one of these a couple of years ago, and I was like pretty adamant. This was before, I think, Into Dark. It might have been just right after the first Star Trek movie, and I was like, come on, this Star Trek stuff is garbage. They hit lightning in a bottle with J.J. Abrams, and then it's like, wow, they made another solid film, and then they've got another Star Trek movie coming out from the guy that made some of the Fast and Furious movies. Jeremy Lin, what's his name? No, it's not something Lin. I can't remember his name, but he's a great director, and I'm excited to see the next Star Trek film, which I can't really say I've ever felt. I was excited to see Into Darkness, but I'm really excited to see the third Star Trek film.
Star Trek Beyond. Justin Lin is the name of the director. It does look pretty good. The previews definitely look good.
Yeah, and I like that they shoot a lot of the movie in IMAX. That's a good movie to see in IMAX. Into Darkness looked beautiful in IMAX. I really enjoyed it, and I don't remember what I went and saw, but there was some movie I went and saw where they showed like the first 15 minutes of Star Trek Into Darkness in the IMAX.
The Hobbit. It was during the Hobbit.
Yeah, that's right, and it was great. That first 15 minutes, man, you're on the edge of your seat. That was one of that's in Star Trek Into Darkness. Probably has one of the best openings of a movie ever, other than maybe the original Star Wars movie, the very first one.
I agree with you, man. That's pretty good.
It's really good. So yeah, that's kind of fun. It's it's like I said, it's great to live in a world where J.J. Abrams is kind of if J.J. Abrams can be a fan of both, then I guess we all can be. Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Do you think that J.J. Abrams will come back and do another Star Trek movie after this third one? Because he's
Probably
for all
not.
intents and purposes, he's kind of done directing Star Wars, right?
I really don't know. I think he's probably put his coat on the hook for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd definitely like to see some original stuff from him, because I really liked that film he did with Spielberg, Super 8.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
And Cloverfield, Cloverfield is really good too. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what Bad Robot and J.J. Abrams decide to do next. Whatever they decide to do next is probably going to be big, because I'm sure any idea he has in his mind where he's like, well, I'm going to have a hard time getting that made on that idea. That's out the door now with this. I think it's crossed over $2 billion now. Star Wars has, so they'll probably let him make just about anything he wants to in Hollywood now.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's kind of like, where do you go from here? Like, as what he's done is like, he's a fan of Star Wars, and like, you just made the movie you probably have always wanted to make.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it makes me wonder, Will, did the reason they let him make Star Wars, the new Star Wars movie, is it because of what he did with Star Trek?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question.
I kind of think it is. I kind of feel like the reason that he made Star Trek to begin with is he never thought in his wildest dreams he'd ever get a chance to make a Star Wars movie. So he decided to make Star Trek, and he kind of wars it up a little bit because I would say that it's fair to say that J.J. Abrams is a bigger Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan, if he had to pick one or the other. He got into filmmaking because of Star Wars. He's said that many times.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he basically made what he wanted, like in a real Star Wars.
Yeah, and so they kind of see what he did with, the Trek, and they're looking for Kathleen Kennedy's looking for somebody to direct the new Star Wars movie, and she's like, man, this kid that I've known forever that used to intern with me is now making these amazing films. That's the guy, and she was exactly right. He was the guy. Maybe he should handle most of our space movies. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think they definitely made the right choice, and
yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up for this week. If you guys want to put in your 2 cents about it, maybe, I know we have Trek fans that listen to this, so maybe if you feel like we weren't fair, or maybe you're more on the other side, you think Wars is by far and away the best, let us know. Go to facebook.com/Geek Revolution Radio. We've got a fun show coming up for you guys next week. I've been really looking forward to this next show ever since we planned it. The episode will be dropped, I guess, the day after Valentine's Day. So next week we're gonna do an episode on powerful women in geekdom, and this is not like people like we're talking about characters like Rey from Star Wars. She is a powerful woman in geekdom in some sort of a TV or a movie show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is another one that I'm gonna want to talk about. These are women that have kind of changed the landscape of TV and film, or movies and TV shows that we consider geekdom, because they've become powerful women in geekdom. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. I'm really excited about that.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So make sure you check out all of our friends. We've got Mike T and Mike W at theothermikes.com. Stupid Wankers, of course, are doing their Star Wars review over on their site. You can check them out. And then, if you want to relax and have a good time, check out ADO Radio. Those guys have been doing shows for a heck of a long time, and their shows just keep getting better. So that's all I've got for this week. Will, you got anything else?
No. It was a good show today. I like talking about both because I have general love for them both, and I'm excited about next week's episode too. At
some point, I'm going to want to take a really deep dive into episode 7 and get some friends on. So maybe that'll be a good one to plan for, maybe around in March or April, whenever the Blu-ray comes out.
Definitely.
We can watch it and then immediately do a show. That'd be pretty fun. So
that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Will.
Live long and prosper, and may the force be with you always. GeekRevolutionRadio.com.
You've been listening to Geek Revolution Radio, hosted by William Hatton and Ryan Bennett. For more information about Geek Revolution Radio, go to geekrevolutionradio.com. Feel free to interact with the show at facebook.com/geekrevolutionradio. The intro song is called What You Want. The credit song is Riptide. Both are composed by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons. The views and opinions expressed on Geek Revolution Radio are those of the panelists and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of our sponsors. Thank you for listening.